In Australia, we have a quite a radical conservative called Bob Katter. He's a Queenslander, and he, as most people would know, calls himself a country socialist, or in his term, an Aquarian socialist is the best term. Now, Bob has decided to start a new political party in Australia, and he intimated this some 2 weeks after the federal election when noting the direction in Australian politics. Now, on many issues, I totally am basically offended by some of the shit that Bob Katter believes in. But Bob Katter has made some astoundingly true statements, statements which will hit home with the voters in areas of Western Sydney, in areas around Broadmeadows and the industrial areas of Melbourne quite well, and I'm sure in the outer suburbs of Brisbane, where numerous jobs and manufacturing jobs have been lost over the last 25 to 30 years, where unemployment amongst youth rivals close to 30 to 50% in some of these regions, and unemployment in the regions themselves, if you look at the demographics, can be anywhere up to 16%. Now that is actual people trying to find work or have got into the stage of being unemployed or employed for 1 day a week, the continual casualisation of society. Now, Bob wants to redress certain aspects and bring back a manufacturing base into Australia and protect primary industries, i.e. beef, dairy, wool, the primary industries which are very strong in Australia. He also wants to bring back more of the industries which in a lot of ways I oppose, which include the heavy metal industries and a reliance on the fossil fuel sources for power distribution. So you get a mixed bag when you've got Bob Katter, and you do. And he's proudly belligerent in his defence of his own region and his own parliamentary boundaries, as every local member of parliament should be. On these issues regarding Bob Katter, he will hit home with the voters. There is massive dissatisfaction within the Australian community, which has been echoed time and time and time again by senior members of the left of the Australian political scene. And Bob Katter is of the right, and senior members of the right, time and time and time again, have hit on the same core principles. And it is, what do you wish my nation to become? What do these politicians wish Australia to be? Do they wish us to be an importer of every primary produce, that we can produce in our own country, and a primary exporter of coal and steel ore, on metals ore, to other nations, to have those products imported into Australia in the forms of cars and food and concentrated orange juice and concentrated milk products, which are costing thousands upon thousands of jobs every year, irreplaceable jobs. And it's not just the jobs that are going, it's the type of jobs that are going, the type of industrial jobs that make our society smarter, good engineers, good fabricators, good boiler makers, good plumbers, all these issues which are at the core of making our nation economically viable and strong into the future. Now, people might laugh at Bob Katter and think he is a fool, but he is no man's fool when it comes to issues like this, pointing out that in his own electorate in the last week, 3 firms are shutting down, with an estimated job loss in excess of about 2,000 people being sacked, is a massive dent on country communities. And Bob has hit home on that policy dynamic very hard. And it has been my major crutch against the Greens, that the Greens have not woken up, that regardless of their left-wing policies in social justice areas, we need policy measures that are going to create jobs within our communities, so those communities do not die. And that is the key of socialism, maintaining an equitable balance for all people. Now, as I said, I don't believe in a lot of what Bob Katter stands for. I totally disagree with most of his conservative policies. As I'm a socialist, there's a few conservative policies I agree with. Funny enough, people might find that weird. But this is in no doubt a party, if he forms it, will take big inroads into conservative base voters. It will also take massive inroads into manufacturing areas and industrial areas, voting strongholds around the country. And if we're talking about Wollongong, Newcastle, Broadmeadows, Blacktown, Bankstown, these are the type of areas where everyone knows, or Ipswich, where his political party will make inroads. Now, the party is not going to be operating on some form of neo-fascist dictatorship as if it was the evils of one nation. I think Bob Katter's a lot smarter for this. And they will succeed. Now, wouldn't it be strange if the so-called two major political parties, the Labor Party and the Liberal Party, with Bob Katter's introduction of a new political party with formidable backing, apparently from both within the socialist left of the ALP and firm conservative members who have had chats with him on these issues, that you're going to find a position where you have Bob Katter garnishing about 10 to 12% of the vote. You have the Greens garnishing about 10 to 12%. Sometimes these people might have 17 or 18%. And you're going to have the dynamic coalition and the Liberal National Party coalition, and you're going to have the Labor Party squeezed ever tighter into what they consider the apparent centre of the Australian community, which is not the case. People are sick and tired of hearing excuses from their political leaders. Why the f*** is this happening? How come in France they can retire at 62 and get a pension supplemented by the government, and yet in Australia, a person entering the workforce now will be lucky to get a government pension by the time they're 78? Whereas the money that's used to fund, used to be used to fund those pension supplements, is being used to pay the massive upper middle class and upper class tax breaks given to superannuation. These are the issues that affect Australia, and they affect Australians every day on the ground in their pocket. This idea that we can walk around and have a free market when there is no such thing as a free market is beyond a joke. There is no free market in the world. It's crap. I don't want a free market. There are people who advocate a free market against me, but I don't want a free market. I want protectionism. I want our industries protected within my nation's borders. I do not want body corporates to take over the dynamism and value of the people who work hard in my nation to produce the goods and services that we need. I don't want those people moved into warehouses continually, which is all that has happened for the last 30 years. And this continues and continues and continues to happen. So hats off to Bob Katter. Hats off to the mad right-wing bloke from up north. He's put in a nutshell what a lot of Australians feel. And a lot of the stuff he says, I agree with. And so does many more people. So good luck to you, Bob. I don't agree with you on anything, Bob. But you're a true agrarian socialist and you are a true conservative. Perhaps if the Conservatives looked at how the French Conservatives are doing, their vote wouldn't be diminishing as well. But this is the standard that Australian politics has sunk to. This neo-liberalism ideal that they on both sides of the political fence, these two make-believe mafia right-wing parties, the Labor Party and the Coalition, this is what they've done to our great nation. And they should be held account by the voters. Only recently someone said, I don't want anyone to vote. If you don't vote Labor, you're voting for Tony Abbott, and Tony Abbott's evil. Well, so is the Labor Party. They're just as evil. They're just as right-wing. There's no difference in policy outlay. You know, the idea that the Labor Party is going to be any more or less harsh on people who are unemployed than the Liberal Party, what do you mean? The Liberal Party won't put any sandwiches in your lunchbox as they take you out the door and force you to work for $5 an hour. Oh, the Labor Party will give you your sangers. Woohoo! Tell that to a poor boy on the bloody streets. If you want real change, you vote for the people who damn well are going to introduce the policies you agree with. And there is a groundswell of people in this community who are off. Because they want stuff that really don't for them. They don't want politicians dictating terms to the community. The community wants their voice back. They want their say. So f*** them. Well done to you, Bob Catter. Don't agree with everything you say, but you've hit it on the head in many of the things you said today. And that might upset a few people. I don't give a... Here enough the news.